Any opposed? And minutes approval for the March meeting. Motion for that?
Make a motion.
In a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All right. Public comment. Do we have anybody here for public comment? Okay, looks like no old business, new business. We have some sidewalk use agreements. Charlie, can we just kind of lump these all together?
There's only one sidewalk use agreement, the other ones are all.
Oh, special events. Okay. So West Hill Brewery does everybody get a chance to look at West Hill Brewery's sidewalk use agreement? Okay, can I get a motion to approve?
Approved.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. All right. A recommendation of the special event application for Veterans Day Parade submitted by the American Legion. Motion to approve that?
Approved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Right. A special event application for the Hometown Pride Parade.
Just so you guys know, on the next two, both the applicants are in the audience. If there's any questions about them.
I think these are pretty. Saturday, July 29th at 10:30.
That's
So
what
that's-
used to be the old.
That'll be the
parade.
balloon parade, essentially. Okay.
And it won't go all the way around the square. It'll right in front of us hill. So we can get next to Buxton Park, to tie into the, art festival. They'll be
Oh,
going on
perfect.
that day too.
Right, sounds great. Or can I get a motion to approve?
Approved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
We have a special event application for the Chamber Concert Series Friday Night Live Street Party with Trainwreck. Everybody get a chance to take a look at the street closures and everything for that? All right, any questions for Amanda?
What time you close the streets?
So I spoke with Trainwreck and it sounds like 4 o'clock will be sufficient. And it won't be all the streets, it'll just be
Or, yeah.
that area. And honestly, you know, as much as we can maintain things open, we will. We just need to make sure we can get the stage set up and some of the games.
4 o'clock works because that gives this customers time to get out of stores and such. So I like 4 o'clock.
Okay. Other questions? All right, can I get a motion to approve?
Approved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
It does say the.
Next up, we have consider a recommendation regarding an amendment to the city code related to snow emergency regulations in the downtown square. So we talked with department and what did we decide on?
So, yeah,
7 and 10 p.m., 7 a.m. and 10 p.m.
that
It would not be a.
that the snow ordinance would not apply in the downtown square between those hours, and then on the off hours it would apply.
That would give them 10 to 7, 9 hours, which now they have 2 to 6, which is only 4 hours to remove snow. And they're listening to the city street department. It's a much larger task than I think any of us really,
What does this do for the bars?
you know, it's one of those things that,
They're in there drinking, do they have to come out and move their car, or how's that work?
well,
Well, it would be best if they didn't park on the street to begin
right,
with.
right, yeah.
In there, but yeah, that's the only,
So you can drink, you can go have a drink and then drive, so.
100%, yeah. So that was the only, that was the one business type that we looked at that it's going to affect. So most of the square is done by 10 o'clock at night. There's
Not every day of the week.
most are, yeah. I don't know. I know when we talked, it's your kitchen, I think was done by 10.
At 10.
Doug, I think West Hill on weekends is 10 or 11.
Last call's at 10:30.
Yeah. So, I mean, we can shift it an hour or so, but what we're really trying to do here.
Shift it for the weekends? mean, if it's most busy on Saturday, then I don't wanna shut the bars down at 10.
We're not, but again, we're not shutting the bars down. We're just saying that parking is shut down in the street.
It's
Just
snowing.
saying, we're shutting down.
But the parking lots are all open still and there's other areas. And again, it's the four main sides and the offshoots of the square. So there's other areas where you can, well, I guess on the street, no, you wouldn't be able to park anywhere until it was plowed, but parking lots are still able to be parked in and all of that. So there's other areas you can park. It's just, you know.
Why can't we just make it for Saturday or Friday or Saturday? Those are the big
Yeah.
nights.
So, and again, the main issue here was the removal of snow in the downtown takes a lot of work from our public works department. Right now, they have a 3-hour window in which they can do it. And really sometimes what that does is it pushes snow removal out a couple days from getting that whole thing completely cleaned up because they have that window and it really is dependent on when snow starts and all of that stuff. So I think where this originated was a couple storms ago, we had snow start falling at 6 o'clock at night. Public Works Department's main focus initially is on all of the roads in the city. Second priority is the square. They cannot work 24 hours around the clock. They've got to take mandatory breaks and all of that. So there was a snowstorm that started Thursday night at 6 o'clock and they weren't even able to get in there until Saturday night overnight to do the square just based off how everything was playing out. So what the attempt here is just to give them more time to get in there on the, you know, half a dozen times that it snows a year to get in there and get the snow out of there.
If we run into a situation where we get a bunch of snow next winter and I come up and I park my car on a Saturday night and I get a ticket at 11, I'm not coming back. I'm hurting the businesses on the square. So I just don't understand why we can't on Friday and Saturday, just make it a little later. So we're not affecting the revenue because the employees of the city, their revenue isn't changed. They're getting an hourly rate. These bars and restaurants, I have a small window to make money on there. I don't own a bar or restaurant. I'm just saying it doesn't seem like we should be shutting our bars and restaurants down. I know you're gonna say we're not shutting them down, but it's a parking lot, so.
Doug, Marvin, what's your thoughts? Is 10 a.m. or is 10 p.m. too early? If we push it back to 11, would that be a huge problem?
It's not for me.
I agree.
We slow down, especially if there's a snow event or something like that, the customers are gonna be leaving early anyway. But we're usually shut down by 10 anyway.
But I'm trying to represent Mojo's and this Zoo.
Yeah, they're open
Yeah.
later and
They're not here.
I understand that concern. It's kind of stemmed from, that it was a really weird event and actually it wasn't really the time that it was snowing and the ordinance for that day. It was like the next day because there was snow all over in all the parking spots. There was a big pile and then people were parking out in the streets. So it was almost down to a 1-lane street. City couldn't get in there to even get those piles the next day. That caused a problem because then people weren't even parking in front of our place because there was a huge pile of snow because they just open it, push all the snow to the outside, but then they need that extra time to come back, pull it out, haul it away. And I mean, it was a mess. There was probably half to 3/4 of the parking in the city couldn't be utilized because there was snow piles everywhere. I think everybody witnessed that.
And this is the hopes of less snow pushing, more snow removal.
Yeah.
Because when the city department came, it takes 80 to 100 truckloads for a 4 to 6 inch snow to remove off the square. So if we want to have all that parking available for the next day, kind of that sacrifice.
Yeah, it's like
And I think one other
a
thing,
couple hours early, but then having all your parking available.
I get it. I mean, to me, it's not a big deal, but Mojo's couple hours is from 10 to 2. That's their bread and butter. That is when they make money and we make money as a city from their revenue. So I just don't want to kill what little light night business we have on the square. I can tell you 15 years ago, I got a ticket for leaving my car on the square overnight and I still think I'm safe. If I get a ticket now because of snow, I mean, that's another one of those, stay away from the square.
Mhm.
My 2 cents. Think about.
I know, I do see your point, and where Mojo's and the zoo are located, there's not really much parking.
Go to Ace, were they gonna get mad at you? Ace
Yeah,
doesn't
it's-
parking in their parking lot, so they park behind me.
Yeah, oh, yeah, I mean, it's,
Just thinking that 10 o'clock is too early on a Saturday night when I've got most of my revenue for a bar coming from 10 to 2.
Do lack of public parking lot in that corner of the square.
Just asking questions.
valid, yeah. I see both sides. But for those two businesses, I see how 11 o'clock might help a little bit? Is
It'd
that,
be better than 10. 2 would be better than 11, but I find a happy medium, I guess. I don't know.
and I know it takes forever to move that snow and hard work, but
And I was just gonna jump in. The other thing to note, and I think the way the code is written is once the snow is removed, you're able to start parking there too, but there could be scenarios where, it's cleared at that point in time and it's affecting one day during a snowstorm, maybe for, again, a few times a year, depending on how much snow we get. So
Really, yeah, that snow event could happen on a Monday. It could happen on who knows? So it's like, 6 snow events we have. Many of them are gonna land exactly on a Friday and Saturday. Who knows?
after this discussion next year, all of them.
Oh,
If the rule is gonna be, we're not gonna go give tickets to people around the bar, then that's fine, as long as that loose rule stays in place with not.
And it's really hard to say because this could change years from now too, but I do know one thing our PD does a really good job of is trying to locate people who are parked in the square first and foremost, try to get a hold of them, get them to move their car before they ticket. So, again, the law is the law. 10 years from now, somebody can interpret that different and write tickets to everybody. I don't know. So I'm just saying currently, I know that's how they usually handle that.
Do we think 10's too early? Do we want to push that recommendation back to 11? Is that doable, Charlie?
That's that's
Is it right now, Charlie?
right now,
10 PM to
as
7
it stands today or the way the code's written.
The way it stands today.
The way it stands today is they have to use that 2 to 5 window to remove snow, where there's the 3-hour no parking overnight.
Yeah, 5 extra hours. They'd have 11 to 7.
Yeah, right now it's 3 and we're a 3-hour window. We'd open it to a 9-hour window at 7 to the 9 to 7 range.
I guess it's
Essentially,
what,
the
do
amount
you
of
think
time.
Public Works would prioritize the square during those hours then? Like, the worst thing we'd do is give those hours to them and then nothing happens for 2 hours of that.
They will. I mean, so the square becomes a second priority in there, and this is where timing is everything. So if a snowstorm starts at, let's say, 10 PM, their first priority is going to be to take care of all the streets. So it couldn't be until the next night they don't come back and take care of the square. Based
So-
on that.
Can it be a separate ordinance that goes into effect for the downtown area? So when the snow begins falling, the city streets are gonna be the priority. So can there be some form of communication that they can say, now the downtown snow ordinance is going to take effect at 2 AM because that's when we'll have the streets done? Can they be separate ordinances that go into effect?
Possibly, yeah. I'm trying to think through how that would be. It'd just be a form of communication that would have to be out. It's a little bit more difficult, I think, from our end, but not impossible.
Right? That way, I mean, at 10 PM or 11 PM, whatever we decide, then we don't have no action happening and people are
It's-
moving cars for nothing.
It's really hard to say without Public Works here too, just because I don't
Yeah.
understand the full on of what exactly it takes for that. But that could be a thing too, is you could, as a business, be looking at a very short notice on when that's going to start.
Mhm.
There's just schedules and everything and mandatory rest that they have to take and all of that play into effect. So without asking AP on how that would look, I really don't know.
Yeah, because I mean, if we got note at, midnight, hey, snow ordinance in effect for downtown now. Everybody needs to move your cars.
Yeah.
That's better than 10 PM and then where it sits idle while they go to city streets.
Could we table this and bring Public Works in to talk next time?
But yeah.
Knock on wood, we're out
I
of
was
the.
gonna say, I don't think we're
We're
gonna
out
be
of the
dealing with it
snow.
for
We should have
2 months, so.
Right, to figure this out.
Yeah,
let's hope.
yeah.
It is that,
Everybody now.
yeah.
Okay, so table this one and we'll bring city street department back in and see how that communication could vary for the downtown area versus the whole city.
Just to look out for all of our friends on the square.
Yeah.
That's the point. That's what we're here for, I think. So I think that is
They were just here at the last meeting. I would hate to waste their time again and hours talking about this. I mean, they kind of gave us a recommendation and a window that worked for them. It has nothing to really do with when our businesses are open. It has to do with what time works best for them. We could recommend to them, hey man, we'd really like you to do it between 8 and noon in the morning. And they might go, yeah, we can't do it then. So, I mean, it really has nothing to do with our hours. We can recommend what's better, but I mean, they got to get in there when they can get in. And if they say it's midnight to 8 a.m., sorry. I mean, I'm not the one out there scooping snow. They are. I don't know why we're forcing their hand and telling them.
Because you're
what works
putting,
best for them.
because to me, because you're putting a limit on the businesses that are paying taxes and trying to stay
I
open.
totally understand, but you can't.
Limit their ability to make money because I want to be able to get in there and make it easy to move snow.
Sure, but
I'm
you
not gonna park there if there's snowing, but
you can't also tell the city like, hey, my business is closed these hours, come get mine. Oh, but they're open, so like you can't get theirs. Like that just doesn't work. You gotta find the best window that works for the most people. It's not gonna work for everybody. And that's just plain and simple. And they were already here. They recommended us a time. That's why it's on this agenda, you know? I don't think we need any more information from them, really. It's my opinion.
I would still recommend that we table it and talk to them about it, because I think we're shutting down 4 hours of money opportunity for two businesses on our square that aren't here to fight for their ability to keep their doors open those nights. Just saying.
Are we playing God here too? I mean, we're talking about a snow, this snow event that's gonna start at 10 PM. You know, I mean, how many times does a snow event start at 10 PM? What if it starts at 8 AM? I mean, do we wanna limit the square from 8 AM to 10 PM that they can't touch our snow because we don't get an ordinance down there? I don't know. I don't know what the right answer is. It affects a whole lot more people if we do a snow ordinance in the middle of the day. I loop the square quite a bit at 9 PM. Handful of cars that park out in front of the bars. I don't know where they're parking. I mean, I would like to pull Mojo's in the zoo to see where do you think your patrons park? Because there's not a lot of cars out there, but where do they park?
I think a lot of the college kids do walk,
I think so too.
and then they have one designated driver that comes to get them or parks, you know, so.
Carly, can you canvass those businesses that are open past that ordinance that we're talking about and just get their feeling? Cause I mean, I do agree with him. Like I would not like to take a vote without their input. If they all 3 or 4 of them that are open that late say, yeah, we don't care, then let it happen. But
Yeah.
just shoot them an email and say, hey,
Here.
we're looking at this. How does it affect you?
Are we, and for reference, are we talking about the square itself or are we talking about the district? Because we've kind of said the district is a side street.
This is specific to the square and all fingers off the.
Fingers, okay. So like, even like on a current no ordinance, you could park on that side street in front of Mojo's.
No.
But like with the current ordinance, would that be?
Current ordinance actually, it includes the square, all off streets, and then all the streets behind the square as well too. We actually took the streets behind the square off because didn't think it was necessary to include all of those. And because those aren't providing parking, usually I should say, they're not providing parking to businesses on the square.
Right.
But right now it does include those ones still, yes.
Okay.
We're not adding anything.
And even if we push back to midnight to 7, or was it 7?
Yeah.
Midnight to 7 is still gonna give them 7 hours, 4 hours more than the current.
And on the 7 AM side, their first business open on the square was 7 AM, and there were the few coffee shops. The one that Fusion Fitness is 24 hours, so that one was kind of hard to manage on that side, but.
Cause I'm guessing if snow starts at a certain time, Public Works Director is gonna know, like, do I need to put this ordinance in effect tonight, or do I need to wait till tomorrow night? Cause my guys are gonna be way too busy during this evening.
Yeah. I think it would be helpful
that's
if we could
possible.
add that
If
to your snow ordinance, so it doesn't just blanket everything and then say, city snow ordinance goes into effect at 6 PM, but we don't need that, the square one to go into effect until midnight or 1, because we have to take this mandatory break and, I just think the separation of those two would be good flexibility. Is that just a conversation that we can have with the AP to the side?
I can have a conversation with them about it.
Okay.
I don't know if you want them to come back or not, but
I mean, do we need them to come back, or if we can do that flexibility of having the two separate ordinances with the timing that they know with their mandatory breaks when the snow event begins, and knowing that they're not gonna need that full 9-hour window to do downtown area.
He was pretty clear about his needs, so I don't know that we need him back. It's just deciding what the bar owners think, I think.
And I mean, there's just so much fluctuation. It could start at 7 AM. And by 10 PM, we're not parking on the square anyways, because there's mounds of snow. It could be blowing and, just, it's a hard thing to.
a lot of layers to it, yeah.
A lot of layers. Okay, so we'll table it, talk to Zoom, Mojos, and AP.
We'll just, somebody to table it, we'll need a motion and
Oh.
vote on that.
Okay. I get a motion to push this off till further discussion. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm opposed.
You're opposed. Okay. Okay. Comment.
I'm gonna, there's a few comments. If you wanna,
No, I just have, application had 2 dates.
Oh,
I'm posting a calendar, so I'm hoping you can approve the other date while I'm here.
it was
Okay.
the application was both of them.
It was,
Yes,
okay.
yes,
just
yes.
making sure.
the 9th, okay, and did everybody take note of that? So the June 9th will be in the southwest corner of the square, and the 26th will be in the northeast corner. So it'll be just little L's that are closed off with the stage and a band.
I'll take your posters back because my poster says the 25th.
Oh, and I think that's what I was looking at, yeah. Mojo's and Zoo. Mojo Zoo Garage.
Yeah, the first one was kind of the southwest corner, the second one was the northeast corner.
So it'll close a little chunk, or it'll close Ashland Avenue from Buxton to Howard, and then
Howard from Salem to Ashland plus the intersection.
where's the plan for the stage to go for that one?
In the, by KNIA, basically.
Okay, so it'll be right there on that corner.
Flip flop. Yep. Benefit different.
And then that is requesting the city council also for an open container.
But for both.
Right, there won't be a beer garden or anything. It will be, the bars will be able to sell to-go beverages or unopened.
Yes.
Or whatever. I don't understand how everybody's different liquor
I'm
licenses
not
work.
bringing a liquor license. We're
Yes,
leveraging
this
that
is
one.
bringing the Friday Night Live concert series from the Mosquito Theater where we sell the beer, bringing it to the businesses that bread and butter. So do we need to revote on that one?
Actually, no, it was one in application, so.
Okay.
And yours is just a recommendation, obviously, going to council for final.
Oh, I'm sorry,
And Ben has some.
Yeah. But no, I think Ben wants to give just a quick presentation to the Downtown Square Commission. I don't know how many people actually watch council meetings. Last night, there was just some information that was shared with our council, and I'll give him the stage to go over that and kind of some exciting things that are happening with the square. Potentially.
And,
Hopefully.
25th, so it's a Saturday.
Good use of your time here. Let me, few minutes and let me. Oops.
So, I probably just said I presented this to the council last night. And, they had an approval of 4 different items that are here. Bob Kling actually contacted me this morning, said it's really ambitious. This is pretty exciting for our community. And him, it was a really big piece of information shared all at once to the council and to the staff. Of course, it's something that we've been working on for 9 months, taking small baby steps along the way, trying to get. It may feel like it's a little bit overwhelming and visionary as far as the aspects of our community and what it can mean for our community. But it's we're trying to set very clear expectations that this is something that would take a very long time, several votes of the public along the way. We would have lots of community engagement. Sometimes when we share a presentation like this, well, this is a done deal. It's going to happen tomorrow. All the decisions are made, and that's not the case whatsoever. In fact, you'll find as I'm giving this presentation that it's all at the PowerPoint level put together by a novice who doesn't have a lot of experience doing any kind of renderings or anything like that. We haven't even really engaged our architects or anything. But we wanted to present this to you first after our city council and go around and present it to our various businesses and groups and everything, just to get a lot of input into the engagement. So just to start off with a little bit of disclaimer, because that's always a good idea. I've already kind of set the stage a little bit. This is just very high level, put together through the ideas that I've gathered with many of you and people throughout the community in my short time that I've been here. There's no promises, no timelines, no expectations, and nothing is set in stone. All ideas are good and used to help make this an even better idea. And like I said, it's going to take multiple votes. So the week before I came to Indianola was the week of the big vote of our city council on the new public safety building, library, city hall combination. $46 million request that they were hoping to put into one ballot initiative. But it was determined that legally, because it was 2 different parcels, it had to be 2 different votes. And there was a lot of concerns and questions and issues regard to the concept that was put together. There was a lot of time invested by our previous elected leaders, and the new ones coming in had a lot of questions. So we weren't really on the same page. It was a pretty heated exchange. And in Utah, I shared this last night, you get smog hitting against the mountains. They call it the inversion. And no better way to get rid of the smog than to have a storm. So a storm cleans out the inversion, and sometimes you need that storm and that opportunity to talk and to communicate, to have ideas start moving. Clears the air. And some of the concerns that I've expressed is, right off the bat, you can look at it and go, well, it's a very modern building, and does that fit our architecture? It doesn't have some of the features that our community might want, and it could be very impactful, especially the library in a residential neighborhood. We have a lot to learn from our experiences of the recent past. So what are those concerns? Well, first of all, it was 2 different projects instead of one. And so that created a concern. And then secondarily, we needed to take a pause because there are certain aspects that we wanted to make sure that we're taking care of. We wanted to have City Hall downtown, our public safety building downtown, because it creates vibrancy for the businesses. It draws people in. And that's really important to us. We wanted to make sure that whatever we did had a positive effect on the businesses in the downtown area with green space and additional parking on the square. We wanted to make sure that the architecture was going to match the historic nature of our community. We wanted to make sure that the cost is something that was affordable for our community and could be done maybe in a phased way, or at least in a manner where the public really knew what they were purchasing when they went to the ballot box to vote. I come from a different area of the community where our city, as a nation that doesn't have tornadoes typically. And so having a basement felt like a really good idea to me for our public safety building, especially if we're going to have emergency operations planned out of that. And then, of course, we wanted to make sure that our community was united by this project, not divided by the project. And so we wanted to make sure that both our old and our new council felt vested, because there is a little bit of a divide. And then ultimately, we wanted to enhance our downtown business district. So this is an overhead look of the current city office building. And if you really take a look at it, a lot of our parking and our green space is out on Jefferson, and it's really not used. It's beautiful. I think our Parks and Rec division does an excellent job bringing flowers in and making the Tree of Life look really pretty. But on my interview day, I was waiting for my wife to come and meet me after my interview so we could go spend too much money on the square. And I sat there as cars were going by. It was really loud. No one was out there enjoying a cup of coffee or an ice cream cone or anything like that. No one would let their kids play so close to Jefferson. And so it was just really obvious to me. It's pretty, but it's a landscaping feature. It's really not a park. How could we make better use of it? And of course, the square is really not that far away, and we have our new Justice Center right there planned just off of that picture. And so some of the objectives that the council really had talked about is keeping the public safety building downtown, important for them to make sure that we kept that vibrancy in our community. To find temporary office space for our city personnel. That was another issue. If we're going to construct a new city office building at some point, we've got to take down parts of this building. We've got to move our staff out. Where are they going to be housed in the short term before they can come back to a new facility? It was always envisioned that the fire department could stay so that we build a fire department down here at the bottom. That way all their trucks and apparatus and everything could come down to the new part of the building and then knock down the upper part of the building. But there really wasn't a good place for our city staff and our police department. We wanted to make sure that the city hall was brought back to the public safety building and not next in the library, because it felt over impactful to the neighborhood by the library. And I should probably stop here and talk a little bit about the library. The library itself, they were planning that, really came to almost have no setback on any side, very much like the County Justice Center. And so we've been working on acquiring extra land there as well, so that the library could fit only the library, could have green space, trees, parking adequate. That would make it so that it's an enjoyable feature for the neighborhood, not an impactful, building residential area. But bringing the city hall features of the city back to the public safety building made a lot of sense. Relocating parking and green space closer to the square, so we had a net positive in parking for the square, was really important for us. Historic architecture, as I said, and enhancing the downtown development. And so the concept really came down to what do we do and how do we move that space over? And secondarily, is there a need for additional land? So the city has that property right here under lease. And it was really discussed an opportunity for the city to purchase this property. And as I started meeting with the property owner, I didn't realize that he owned the building and the parking lot. He didn't really want to sell one without the other. So it really created an opportunity for us to say, what is the possibility? Maybe we ought to really consider purchasing this entire area. How could that transform our downtown aspects, community? Arguably, it's the least aesthetically pleasing building on the square. It doesn't match the architecture of the rest of the square. It's that 60s and 70s kind of motif, and often looks like it's a little bit vacant and is in disrepair. So it's a good opportunity for us as a city to kind of pick that up and revitalize that area as well. For us during construction, and this is project one, I'm talking about 3 different projects here. Project one is the new city hall, and that's the one we have to accomplish first. So for us, it's a great location for us to have a temporary downtown location for our city hall and for our staff. We can immediately move them. Well, I say immediately, once it's on the ballot, and if the ballot is approved, our staff could move over there. We want to work with all of our tenants there, and I've had conversations with all 3 of them, and they're all very excited about the opportunities of partnering with the city to be able to either different accommodations or build within our community. So there's a lot of opportunities there, and they have a good partner in the city to find different accommodations. And we have plenty of time because we have to design, we have to put it on a ballot, we have we have a lot of time to make all that work. But after construction, the question really is, what do we do with this building and how do we make better use of it? Of course, that is really over a 5 to 7 year period. It's going to take time to design, it's going to take time to construct, and then take time to take the next steps. What could be the benefits of a downtown development? Well, why is downtown important? Well, a downtown is your heart. It is your economic center for the community. It provides you the tax base that you need to be able to provide services elsewhere. And it's good for the city. It's actually even better for the county. We receive sales tax dollars for the investments that we make, but the county does as well based on the investments that we make. We receive property taxes, they receive property taxes. And so working together as governmental entities and local governments is really important. Create a vital downtown to make it so it's beneficial not only for the city of Indianola. This is Joe Minicozy, the picture you just saw there, talking about why it's important to build your downtown.
I'm the director of Urban 3 based in Asheville, North Carolina. We help cities look at land use, urban design, and economics so they can see how they're doing financially and what they can be doing better. What we consistently find is that municipalities and their counties perform better when they invest dollars in walkable mixed-use development patterns instead of other forms of development. Think of a company that consumes raw materials, adds some labor and know-how, and creates a product. This company will need to know the cost of their materials, their labor, revenue, and the ultimate market value of the product in order to see whether they will be successful or not. Cities are actually quite similar. Their raw material is a finite resource, the land within their borders, and their product is their tax base, which is what they need to survive and prosper. We've looked at cities all over the country, and when you do the math, it's easy to see that dense downtown development returns a greater investment to the community than putting tax dollars. Let's look at some examples. My house sits on 1/10 of an acre lot. Our municipal property taxes are about $1,100 a year, or about $11,000 an acre. This big box retailer sits on a 34-acre lot. Total property taxes are a whopping $221,000 a year, which equates to about $6,500 an acre net to the city. Taking the city's portion of property taxes and adding the estimated retail taxes, it equals $54,000 in total tax production per acre. That seems like a lot until we compare it to a building downtown. This boarded up to converted into a mixed-use building site that includes retail, office, and residential space. So where does this mixed-use building come in? The city nets a considerable $330,000 property taxes per acre. Add to it the estimated $83,000 in retail taxes per acre, which brings the total to the city to $413,000 per acre. That's more than 7.5 times productivity. Even looking at jobs, the big box store produces about 6 jobs per acre, while our mixed-use building comes in at 74 jobs per acre. And let's not forget, the downtown building also contains 90 residential units per acre. Those residents are working and shopping and creating additional economic activity. The big box store has 0 residential. But remember, most companies need to count more than raw material costs. They also need to account for their labor, management, and know-how. This is the investment they make in turning raw materials into finished product. Cities are the same. In order to turn land into tax base, they have to add a special something called infrastructure. At a minimum, cities add value to their land by providing streets, utility service, police protection, and fire protection. The more spread out a city becomes, the more expensive it is to deliver those services, especially when that acre of land pays less per acre. Unfortunately, when cities consider new developments, too often they focus on taxes that they hope will flow to the city coffers without adequately considering the land base they will use up or the costs they will incur. In city after city, big and small, when we do the math, it's clear that dense downtown development is much more productive than anything else in the community. Downtown development is the golden goose of urban economics and is the best bet for cities that want to prosper in the long run.
So Joe Minicozy has some great videos on YouTube if you want to learn more. It really talks about this aspect of, this is the Des Moines area over time and a 3D map of the productivity or tax per square foot. That's really what it comes down to. He tries to explain the if you look at the gas per vehicle, how much gas it is per tank of a Ford F-150, you know, versus a little Prius. Well, you can go further in the F-150, but you can't get quite it based on the per tank. It has to be based on per gallon. You have to have a per gallon, a common measurement, so that you're comparing apples to apples. Well, yeah, the big box, the Walmart, that brings in a lot of money for that acreage, but it's a lot of acreage. We really broke it down by acre, and you look at what the productivity is of your downtown and the value that you bring actually so much more. There's more businesses, more jobs, more vitality in our little square than there is in a Walmart every day. And so it creates more jobs and more benefit to the community. And that's why it's so important for communities to work on preserving and protecting its downtown. When we started talking about how do we bring that green space and what's the benefit, this idea really has evolved a little bit from the area outside the Charlotte, North Carolina Convention Center. You have just a little bit of a green space, a little park that basically leads from the convention center to their hotel district. And it's just that opportunity for a gathering space within a community to grab a cup of coffee, so you can have an ice cream cone, so that your kids can walk around a little bit in a safe area, and have outdoor seating for your venue. It's just a nice little area, and it creates that calmness within your community. So looking at this, what could we do with this little area right here? Again, just playing with PowerPoint, it's something that we could potentially remove as far as buildings and create a green space that leads to parking. It could be a community gathering space. It could provide additional public art on our sides and in the middle. And we also have the new Justice Center with the steps that were designed for concerts that really lead into a street. They really don't lead into a venue. So we took the opportunity to relocate the Tree of Life from over here in this area to be closer to a flex between the county and the city. We add that green space. The A's there are public art. It's just ideas, trees, park benches, places for the community to enjoy. That's option one. This is kind of a layout. I did this part a little bit this morning, a few minutes ago. What could it look like? It's just really trying to open up that area and create that connectivity between the county building and the city building. Another view of that as well. And it is a great location. I mean, you look at the event we had during the holiday season, it brought a ton of people out. Beautiful venue, beautiful area. It's just, how do we tie it all together? Another option is the atrium look. And that is really based on a little bit of Boston area where you have a greenhouse. An atrium could easily be put in where you have the sides sealed up, and it's kind of like a greenhouse in the winter months. And then you can open up the sides and put a cover over it in the summer months and have a nice shaded area as well. So it opens up the opportunities for our community even more to be used year round. Just another option. You don't want to create parking though, an obtuse parking structure in front of your square that's not going to be inviting to the square. Going back to that, you can see the green space that really kind of draws people in. A city office building could kind of draw people. But we want a huge parking garage right in front of the square, obtuse and just in the way and blocking it. But there is an opportunity for us to go low. And that is maybe the most visionary aspect of this, is what could it look like having underground parking structure? Well, for us, what it could mean is it wouldn't add, it would about double the parking spaces. It would create space for the county and city employees, and this is how it could be a potential joint project between both the city and the county, to have underground parking for our city staff, for our county facilities, to take that parking, those county employees, off of the square into a parking structure. But more importantly, it can provide additional parking for the patrons of the businesses that come and visit. Now, people will still use the most convenient parking space. And if it's right in front of your business door, that's what they're going to use. But I can easily see that people would want to park there to keep their car out of the sun, or to ensure that it's not covered in snow. This is just one more opportunity to have an area where we could bring people to the square and maybe a ramp structure or whatnot that could come to that atrium area as, steps that come up to the city area as well. And tying in that parking opportunity for everybody to enjoy. What does it mean for a city hall and how could we bookend this? For us, we want to make sure that our city hall has functionality. That's our number one aspect. And so this for us is all about public safety. Police and fire is the reason that we're trying to build this. And for our fire department today, if you've ever noticed, they have to back in their trucks over and over again. It's a very dangerous situation. And their apparatus is not well housed. Half the time they're running down to the other fire storage area over by the Bank of the West for their other equipment. This right here is the size of the Norwalk Fire Department right here, which is a fairly new facility, not counting the administrative space out front. We would also have foyer space, conference room space that would be right there, available not only for city use, but for community use. It's a community gathering space. And our police department. We also envision having underground parking for our police department as well. This is the basement area. So basically our police cars could come in, go underground. They'd have a sally port where they could drop off people that they need to interrogate and investigate. So there could be interrogation rooms, evidence storage, a small gun range, emergency operations center, and training rooms for both police and fire. And they have different needs. And oftentimes during the emergency, they need different spaces to be able to operate. So this provides all of that to them. But for a city hall on an upper level, we could have our community development department, our administrative department, our council chamber, and a nice conference room that overlooks that entire area. We would want to make sure that our building is built, match the architectural aesthetics of our area. Look at Simpson, if you look at the county administration building, in the Methodist Church area and whatnot, it's all brick and limestone construction. We also have our window treatments. It's very unique to Indianola, and we want to incorporate that as well. I threw in a picture of the Carnegie Library, which is now the Opera House, because it is almost the perfect example of a traditional front end, modern back end. And that's really what we're trying to create here when you look at a new city hall, which is a traditional front end, could lead to a modern back end, which is the Justice Center. So that really kind of ties that aspect with the green space arc in between parking that could benefit our downtown area. This is just, again, using PowerPoint, trying to come up with not a professional rendering whatsoever, but what could it look like? We'd want to make sure that we bring City Hall as close as we possibly can to Jefferson Avenue so that we have space possible to find it. I had a whole bunch of different domes. I put the Winterset dome on top of it. I put one from my last community on top of it. I had one without a dome. One of the suggestions that was made is, yeah, I really ought to try to figure out how to make a dome that looks like a hot air balloon rising. And so that was my attempt to try to do that PowerPoint, create a hot air balloon rising. But somebody else took that idea and said, you know what? If you did that, you could really create your foyer space and make that the inside of a hot air balloon as well. And that would be really unique and inviting for our community. It's definitely our identity. So that when you walk in those front doors, you're really walking through an area that can have interpretive signs on the Classic, on Simpson College, on the Opera House. It could have on the fair, and walk right through a parking area, green area, right to the county administration building, and invite people and patrons that would come to our community to be pulled to the square and their hard-earned dollars. Again, this is 3 different projects. Our first one is really the public safety building. We do have the library. We are working on land acquisition. We've acquired one home. We're in negotiations on another home. So it's a separate project on a separate vote. And then our long-term vision is really that third project that would be several years out, which feature green space and parking areas. For us, though, we needed to acquire the land, and that was what took long 9 months to negotiate that. For the city council last night approved the land acquisition. And that is really the first domino towards many, many steps along the way where we engage the community, we make this idea better and better along the way. We eventually get into community design. We have grassroots effort to share this vision with the community at large. Gain voter approval, and figure out full design, relocating our city staff, and then having construction. So last night, what the council approved was basically 4 actions. They approved a resolution to reimburse themselves, so they're borrowing the money from themselves internally. So this is not an impact on our residents or anything to acquire this building. It does make things a little bit tight, but we are borrowing from ourselves, and if this gets approved in the future, that can reimburse the city where it's taking its funds from. If it doesn't, we still have an asset that we could always sell as well. So it was a little bit no risk in that aspect. We also had to move some money around in that 6B so that we could borrow from ourselves. They approved the property purchase agreement, is in the acquiring this property and closing by May 15th. And then they provided some direction with regard to our architectural services and how we would do. That's everything from last night. Thoughts, questions, advice?
Well done.
Who in the butt of Utah?
Not at all.
No, I think it looks great.
Vision.
It's exciting. I do have one question, and then this is my visual brain trying to visualize how this is all gonna work. So this whole area, including that green space there, is the city hall and such. So what happens to the street right outside before you get to the next phase? What does that look like?
So in the short term, nothing really happens with the street, but in the long term, the street really gets absorbed into a new parking structure and parking area. So that is one aspect. It would be the shutting down of the street. This really came from a neighboring city of mine in Utah that was trying to expand their all in the downtown area, and they ended up deciding that it was in the best interest to shut down the street, create a campus, if you will. And that's really what this is trying to accomplish. You'll still potentially be able to drive through. You're going through a parking structure. You can come down below or through, but it is really technically not a city street.
That's like C Street on Simpson campus, so I think that vision makes sense.
It does. I know that's controversial.
It used to be.
Like day one, and I was-
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's controversial. In my eyes, it's not controversial anymore. I think it's great, but
Honestly, another comparison for me is Detroit between Buxton and Howard, where the Simpson College has their parking lot there. Like you can still drive through it, but you can't, it's not just a through street.
good job.
Any advice, any pitfalls along the way that we haven't thought of yet?
I think the communication of it to the whole community is key in how it's presented. Because people like to react to situations. And so I think if it's presented clearly and positively, and that makes all the difference in the world, which you will do a good job with that, but I think that's key in this town.
Well, I know the big concern in the past, especially with the 46 million that was on the ballot, is that we, and maybe even with the County Justice Center, we're given a little bit of a snapshot of what a rendering might be. Then we're asked to go vote on it. And we hope to get that at the end. It's a little bit different than the methodology and approach that in the past, which is you acquire the land first, invest a little bit in design, you get a rendering that gives you a really good cost estimate, really good picture for the community, and then you go to the ballot and ask them to purchase something that they know. And the other aspect is really considering phasing so that we don't overtax ourselves all this at once, but we do it in steps.
A key component too will be making sure that all the downtown businesses are aware. I think you'll have all of our support, but being able to tell the community that you have our support too. People like to speak on our behalf.
I agree with that, Leslie. There's a lot of warriors out there for us businesses, and so much appreciated because their thoughts are in the right spot. But for business owners, I mean, this is a huge addition and big benefit to us.
I really like the keeping that historical matching look. The biggest talk of that new Justice Center is it's an eyesore. I think it's a good looking building, but next to juxtaposed with all the other buildings, it really is kind of doesn't fit. Yeah.
It would
Looking building.
Why?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Throw it out by Jordan Creek. It's a great looking building. Throw it in the middle of a historic downtown square and you're like, hey, what is that thing doing here? So I mean, keeping that is really great. The removal of the buildings, I think that green space is super cool. The loss of retail or whatever might be an issue. But if you could somehow incorporate new little retail booths or kiosks that follow the green space in, you know, which is just walk in only, but I'm envisioning little, you know, boutique shops or something that's, you know, they only need a few hundred square feet to operate, might be a way to continue to keep some retail storefronts without completely eliminating, you know.
Straight along the.
Yeah, something like that. Like if you keep one of the buildings that, or one of the sections, or even create a new one with them along the sides, you know, then that gives you a nice little storefront while you're walking in from that parking lot to the square or vice versa, you know, you can jut in. I think it's a really nice concept.
Great.
Yeah, I really like the picture you showed, like the alleyway to the Justice Center too, because a lot of cities, yeah.
What if all those buildings are holding each other up?
I know, that's what I'm thinking.
It's a city for.
Mine's one of them. So, just curious.
Where do you cut?
Who's first?
Only one way to find out, right?
Ben, one question I have is with the streetscape project, we really tried to incorporate a public restroom somewhere. Instead of sprinkling tribos all over our downtown beautiful events that we're doing and stuff like that, is there a way that we could incorporate a public restroom?
That's another great idea. I mean, especially if we brought in a little bit and recreated some of these little small storefronts along the green space, and some bathrooms there along the green space too. That's a great idea.
It's greatly needed.
Yes.
A public bathroom. I get asked every day to use my bathroom.
And then Doug, I think that it would be great that if in the winter months, we bring the ice skating rink to this
Yeah.
green space, and we have the ice skating rink right there in the middle. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. Skating rink in the winter.
We're just glad to be able to start.
Yes.
If anybody's been to Green Bay, they put a sliding hill.
Oh, really?
Anybody-
Oh,
Fun.
Why would you think sliding hill in Green Bay, but they put one right across from
Still trying to figure out.
some kind of things like that.
Just to beat them in football.
And I think one thing, because it's public safety and separating it from the library, it makes, I think a lot more town people will get behind that, because I think quite a few people understand the need that police and fire have, but I think there is more opportunity to present that to the rest of the town. How limited they are on space and how that affects the safety of their operations, both police and fire. And I know we tried to get people into the high school to show them nothing has changed since, you know, all of us went to school there and stuff. And I think it's even more important in a public safety to show people like, hey, here's our obstacles that our police department and fire departments are dealing with every single day. So some types of, I don't know, messaging, but also visits in to have those officers or firefighters or whoever speak freely and say like, here's what we struggle with, you know, and we have to go offsite to do this and offsite to do this. And I think it's, people understood that. I think they would rally behind that more.
You guys did, as far as the school district, did an exceptional job at grassroots efforts. Timing of when this would be on the ballot is still undetermined, and state law is changing on that right now. And so it's still, I'm not sure exactly when, but we think that the result of that is going to be that there will be plenty of time to really share this message, get the best ideas come. So, and plenty of tours, you know, a lot of the concept that went into that original picture was gathered during COVID. So you had people giving individual answers. They really weren't holistically coming together like you are all right now and talking. One idea is shared and then another idea is added to it. That's what it takes when you.
I think it's great that we're identifying some of these buildings too, that maybe the property owner doesn't, they own, but they don't have vested interest in the community. And it'd be great to see more buildings like that repurposed and repositioned to work better for the area.
Yeah, the family was great to work with on this. when we negotiated all the way through, the person I was negotiating with lost his wife and then was in the hospital and then he passed away. But family itself is, and he was a gentleman all the way through. So we definitely appreciate him and the family as we're working through and getting closer to closing.
Awesome.
Thank you for your time. This was a
Thank you. Really, did we have anything else?
Have anything else?
I had a, can we talk about the 4-hour parking ban?
Yeah, so
I thought that was gonna be on the agenda today.
well, one of the, so we've kind of taken a little bit of pause on that, because of this project right here that was coming up. But what we're doing, we actually put together, what we've kind of unofficially dubbed our parking task force. And Amanda's on there as part of the downtown, as chair for the Downtown Square Commission, but we're gonna get together with a few people and start going through some of those ideas and what we do. I know from the 4-hour, 3 to 4 hour parking minimum, there's still some concerns on enforcement on that and how we do that. So we just want to get a group together, discuss all our options and then go from there. So I would expect to see something possibly on that in the future, but we're just making sure that we have all options on the table before we bring any regulation change forward.
I do have a question as a business owner. How do I handle a situation where somebody's parking in front of my building all day? I mean, can anything be, yeah,
Right now,
all
there's,
day.
yeah, there's absolutely nothing that we have in code that can take care of it right now. I think the best thing might be just to have a discussion with that person if you can, but
I don't know who it is, but
yeah.
I mean,
That's one of the things that we're trying to do. We know, I mean, we are fully aware that it's a mix of county employees, certain business owners and things like that are choosing to park all day long. So that's one of the things that we want to do with this task force is get them together and figure out ways that we can get messaging out, campaigns or whatever it may be to encourage people to keep the spots on the main portion of our square open for customers.
Yeah, as I've talked to individual council members about this, and as I actually shared this in advance with the 3 county supervisors as well. They're all very excited about this opportunity. Parking is gonna always be a challenge, but we're looking at it in maybe different steps along the way. Step 1, can we work with the county to try to encourage them to have their employees park off? I understand you can't write a law that says that county employees aren't allowed to park here. You can create incentives. You can tie it to their health insurance. You can say, look, you're getting a wellness benefit because you're walking back and forth, a little bit off your insurance or something like that. So discussions will probably likely, we're going to involve county in this task force as well. We're hoping that could create some influence or encouragement, or at least awareness that what they're doing is impactful to businesses. The second thing is we're going to be having a communications director included in the budget starting on July 1st. This is the first time we're going to ever have a true communications marketing type specialist that we can hopefully provide more content to the chamber, more content to the community and marketing and kind of help put our best foot forward. One of the things that was brought up is, can this person create some creative videos or just informationals on. I could share a quick video that the Provo City did on recycling etiquette and what you should put in your recycling can versus your garbage can. It's kind of just a funny video because they tapped into the students there and they made some videos on what is parking etiquette. You know, don't be a parking snob or whatever you want to call it, you know, and it creates that encouragement. And then third, providing more parking opportunities. There's probably a step in between there of greater enforcement, but that becomes a little bit more aggressive and we'd want to encourage your input and someone else's input if you're going to do more aggressive.
Could it be a thing that town merchants create a thing that we tag cars and, you know, these repeat offenders, you sit there all day and, you know, let's say that person that parks in front of Louisville for 8 hours, $100 in sales an hour, it's $800 parking spot. Did you know that you parking here every day is costing my business potentially $800 in sales?
Talked about creating a card
Did you
that,
know we have public parking lots in these directions? And, just a friendly reminder. I do feel like the email that went out from the downtown merchants, I saw a few of the habitual offenders first,
I did too,
which
but this is a newer one.
the newer one.
And I don't know, I haven't seen this person get in and out, but it's definitely there and it's a very noticeable vehicle. So it's not like you can hide,
Yeah.
but no, I agree. And obviously I'm not open every single day, but still for my neighbors, I don't like that either. And then with our alley being torn up starting tomorrow, it's really gonna get challenging on the north side with no parking lot
Yeah.
so I'm just concerned, everybody on our street.
I get the question all the time on code enforcement issues and how to deal with it. Open discussion is always good. Awareness is always good. Doing it with sugar instead of
Nick,
is always good to because you do that, it blows people's back sometimes. So I don't know quite how maybe we can something to encourage people and do it in a funny and a cute way and maybe encourage them to come into the business at some point and build a relationship. I always think that's, if I'm going to go talk to my neighbor about something that they're doing, I'm going to have a pie in my hand.
Or
I think-
cookies.
I think that's, when we talked about this internally and kind of how we approached it, I think that we talked about was we've tried so many things to fix the issue of people parking on the square, and we always keep coming back to it continues to be an issue no matter what. So we're just trying to think outside of the box on what can we do different this time to try to encourage people to park. Because going back to the 3 to 4 hour minimum, there's a lot of issues with that in a sense from the enforcement standpoint that sometimes gets questioned. Okay, well, how are we actually going to enforce on this? What can we do? How do we prove that they've been there that long? We're taking somebody, a police officer doing that work all day long to make sure nobody's parking on there. Is there anything different we can do? And that's really what this task force is going to look at, is what can we do that's different?
The thing is, they wouldn't have to do it all day long. If they did it twice a week, that tells all those people that are parking there for 8 hours, well, I hope it's not today. I better park over here.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be an officer has to spend every day, every hour, days a week.
And we're not saying we're not going to do that. Again, it's just before we jump to that point, we want to look at all options first. So that's what this task force is going to do, is we're just going to get everybody together, see what our options are. And in the end, we might come up and say, hey, the 3 or 4 hour parking minimum is the best thing. Let's go ahead with it. Not saying we're not going to do that. We just want to make sure that we're looking at all options first.
Just popping some signs up and hoping it's a deterrent. All right. Anything else? Anybody?
Sorry to bring up parking. I know it's a constant battle. I hesitate to say it, but.
Motion to adjourn.
All right. Second, all in favor?